If you live in Maryland, look to the skies, because certain death flies on two wings. Every 20 years there appears an airborne horror that terrorizes and haunts the dreams of the residents of Maryland for years after. The Snallygaster, a beast so foul it could only live in nightmares. The Snallygaster, a beast described as being half reptile, half bird, all appetite, with a metallic beak lined with razor-sharp teeth, sometimes being described as having octopus-like tentacles or having one large eye. It's a large avian predator that hunts the skies at night. It only has one known natural enemy, another cryptid known as the Deweo, a wolf-like biped that had the stance and stature of a human, with a bushy tail that is said to hatch from the Snallygaster's eggs. It had been reported that the Deweo and Snallygaster had many vicious encounters, and that it was the only creature that was known of being capable of killing the Snallygaster. Well, the Snallygaster has haunted the Maryland area for centuries. The earliest rumors of it being reported back in the 1730s when German immigrants began to settle the area. They referred to the creature as the Snallygaster, which means quick spirit in German. This was an apt description of the monstrosity that would silently swoop down to snatch up farm animals, children, or unsuspecting farm folk in the night. Fear had seized the land. Residents feared to venture out at night if they didn't have to. Many of the superstitious folk even resorted to painting a 7-pointed hex sign on their barn, with the hope that this might ward off the monster. There were regular reports of the Snallygaster making off with livestock, which the townsfolk would find later, their lifeless, mutilated bodies drained of all blood, littering the area, a definite sign that the Snallygaster had been feeding, leaving a trail of carnage back to the bowels of the South Mountain, where the creature was believed to dwell. Now, this may seem as nothing more than old myths and folklore from the olden days, but there had been a series of sightings and encounters reported since then by far more reputable sources. It seems that in the early 1900s, there was an explosion of events that propelled the Snallygaster back into the limelight. One sighting was by a man who was operating a brick-burning kiln, who chanced upon the Snallygaster, which he reported as seeing sitting on top of the kiln sleeping, maybe keeping itself warm. Once he had stumbled upon it, the beast angrily awoke and emitted a blood-curdling screech. He said that it sounded similar to a locomotive whistle, with a reeking smell of sulfur, and then it angrily flew away. Another sighting was by a man named Charles Maine, who spotted the creature on November 23, 1932. This time the creature was described as having an enormous wingspan, nearly 25 feet, and that it would throw its tentacles out like long streamers and then draw them back in again. On another occasion, a group of lumberjacks claimed to have come upon one of the creature's nests, which was perched on a high cliff in the mountains, a nest that contained one single egg, an egg that they frantically described as being big enough to hatch a horse. After this, 3 men encountered the creature outside a railroad station, where they battled it for nearly 90 minutes before it finally lost interest and flew back into the woods. This left them battered and bruised and thankful to be alive. But the most disturbing event involved a man named Bill Giffordson. In this account, the man was seized by the Snallygaster and carried away. Once the creature had Giffordson in its clutches, it viciously bit his neck, puncturing his jugular. It then proceeded to suck his blood until he was dry. It then casually dropped his lifeless corpse off the cliff on which it was perched, and it simply flew away. This encounter set off a frenzy in the community, creating such a clamor that it seized on the attention of the president at that time, none other than the notorious Theodore Roosevelt, who reportedly considered postponing an international trip to personally hunt the beast. Even the Smithsonian Institute got involved, offering a large reward, a $100,000 reward, for proof confirming the existence of this legendary beast. But this 20-year life cycle of the Snallygaster soon came to an end. It seems that the monster's reign of terror came unexpectedly to an end, oddly enough, by moonshiners. It had been told that the beast was flying near moonshiners' 2,500-gallon still when it became overcome by the fumes, and it fell from the sky and landed in the vat of alcohol where it drowned. Now the moonshiners were in a predicament, and they opted on leaving the scene without notifying anyone. The Snallygaster's corpse wasn't found until much later, when the alcohol's mash had practically eaten all of the flesh from the beast, leaving only the skeleton. But as fortune would have it, Prohibition agents arrived and, unsure of what they were dealing with, decided simply to do their job and destroy the moonshiner still, blowing it up with 500 pounds of dynamite, conveniently leaving no evidence of the Snallygaster. All sightings at the time ceased, until around 1948, another 20 years or so later, when the Snallygaster was spotted soaring above the mountains in Westminster. And then again later in 1973, when the police in Sykesville had reports of the creature and had to go out searching for it. But since then, things have been quiet. Maybe the Snallygaster has become more secretive. Maybe it's moved on to a new hunting ground. Maybe it was killed before it could lay its eggs and reproduce. No one knows for sure, but residents in the Maryland area can enjoy this brief time of peace, although they may still nervously keep an eye on the night skies, just in case. So if you like this content and would like to hear more, then please remember to hit like and subscribe.